Hello everyone and welcome back to biology. Today we are going to be continuing with lesson number 11 on traits, heredity, and gene expression. Now, like I mentioned last class, today we are going to be learning how to predict certain traits. Last class we also learned about different genes and what they can do. We know what dominant genes do and what recessive genes do. Now, we're going to go through how to predict a certain trait. For this example, we're going to do the trait of hair, like the type of hair that you would have, whether it would be straight, curly, wavy, whatever. Now, step 1. We are going to be representing the mother's genes as homozygous. If you remember what homozygous genes are two identical genes. They are represented on the top right-hand corner and on the top left-hand corner. Okay? We have two identical genes, which are represented as two lowercase c's. The father's genes are going to be represented as heterozygous genes. Now, if you remember what heterozygous genes are, it is when we have one dominant gene and one recessive gene. And we represent those on the, vertically on the top and on the bottom. Okay? Now that's step 1. Now, step number 2. We're going to start filling in our possibilities. So, how will we do that? We will take the father's first gene, which in this case is the dominant C, and the mother's first gene. So we're going to take the first one from each side, and in this square, we're going to fill them in. Step 3 is going to look very similar. It's going to look very similar because we are filling in again the top row, which means that the father's gene is still the dominant one and the mother's gene is still the recessive C because the mother's genes are identical. For step number 4, we move to the lower part of our quadrant and we start with the right hand side, and we have for the father a lowercase c and for the mother again a lowercase c. Now these two genes are going to be identical, also known as homozygous. So it's going to look like this. And for step 5, and to complete our square, we take the second top and the second lower one genes and fill them in as well. And that completes our square. Now let's get more into it. We're going to focus on step number 5, which is where our square is complete. Now, in our square, even though we have 4 possibilities, we can see that there are 2 possibilities in all, because we can have the baby be heterozygous, which means that they have one dominant gene and one recessive gene, or homozygous, which is 2 recessive genes that are identical. In this case, they're both recessive. So, if our baby comes out to have heterozygous genes, which is one dominant and one recessive, our baby will have curly hair. Why? Because in this case, the father who has curly hair has the dominant gene. The mom has the recessive gene. So if the baby comes out as heterozygous, they they will have curly hair. Now, if the baby comes out homozygous or with two identical genes, the two identical genes the baby will have will be recessive. So it will be a baby with straight hair. So it has a 50-50 chance. But that is how you can see your possibilities. That is how we predict the traits. Very well, for your assignment, what I want you to do is to predict the traits of eye color. So you're going to be using these examples of genes. Now you're going to be following the same exact steps that we took to predict the trait of hair type. Now you're going to be doing the same exact thing. In this case, we have the dad be heterozygous with a dominant B and a lowercase b, and the mother be homozygous with two identical genes, two lowercase b's. Just so you know, the uppercase B, or the dominant color, is going to be brown. The recessive color is going to be, or the recessive gene is going to be blue, which is going to be represented as the lowercase b. Now, if you have any questions on how to do it, or if you need to go back and look at the steps we took, please feel free to do so. Now, please reach out if you feel the need to, and I hope to be hearing back from everyone very, very soon. Goodbye.